Hey friends, welcome to another video from Finbuzz. The US, Israel and Iran war has started impacting Indian markets fundamentally now. It's not a war that's driving the markets down because of its value of emotions, fear or sentiments. The fundamentals of stocks in the Indian markets have started getting impacted now. Although definitely factors like fear and emotions are impacting the Indian markets, we will dig through a lot of data and information today to understand how this war has started impacting stocks fundamentally also. There are few sectors which are getting impacted very heavily and there are few other sectors which are keeping calm right now. And we'll understand today how this impact could be far worse than the oil crisis itself. And the most worrying part is even if the war gets over today, this impact on fundamentals would take some time. It will take at least a few weeks for it to recover. We'll dig through a lot of data. We'll see a lot of information on a few stocks. Hang on with me guys, you will be learning a lot through this video. I have also noticed that these kind of in-depth analysis video are the ones that you guys are interested to watch. So as I give you a lot of perspective on what's going on in the stock market right now, please do like, comment and share this video with your friends, family and colleagues. Also do not forget to subscribe to this channel. With that note, let's get right into this video. So the first thing is, what is this crisis actually that's causing an effect on the fundamentals of Indian stocks? The crisis is LNG crisis. So what is LNG? LNG is liquefied natural gas. We all know this, right? So here we see, as per Shriram AMC, LNG crisis is bigger than that of oil. They say that earnings may fall over 4%. So they are estimating that if this crisis because of war continues, then there will be an impact of 4% on their earnings. This is just an estimate. There can be lots of caveats behind this. But anyway, now more and more companies have started coming out and talking about this. So we all know that because of the closure of Strait of Hormuz, the supply of oil is getting disrupted right now. But India has a lot of other options also, right? Like India can go and buy oil from Russia. Those options are there and those can be explored. But when it comes to LNG, that's where the tension starts. When it comes to LNG, India has a lot of other bigger problems to face. As we all know, LNG, which is liquefied natural gas, is just natural gas getting converted into a liquid form. And that is done so that the natural gas can be easily transported. And in that case, you don't need gas pipelines to transport gas, right? And as per Google data here, when you convert natural gas into a liquid form, it reduces its volume by 600 times. So if you look at data here, the Ras Laffan facility at Qatar, it is closed. We see here that along with this facility closure, the closure of Strait of Hormuz has cut through 20% of the global supply of LNG. And India is worst hit among other countries. Let's look at data here. We see here that around 50 to 60% of the country's liquefied natural gas comes through Strait of Hormuz. And note that this is bigger than the oil supply. This is a report from Nomura which says that if this crisis continues, around 48% of India's LNG import will be impacted. It doesn't mean that entire 48% of volume will be completely disrupted, but they are stating that there is a risk. And if you look at the second point here, it says that around 60% of LNG import, which is meant for industries, it is for industrial customers, that is getting impacted. This is the bigger problem that I was trying to tell you about. We'll look at the stocks or the sectors that is getting impacted because of this in a minute. Although more and more companies, like I mentioned earlier, are coming out and saying that their production, their day-to-day activities are getting impacted. So there are two kinds of problems that we can anticipate from this crisis or from this issue. First one is that if there is no supply of raw materials, that is the natural gas for this sector or for these companies, then there will be a disruption of production. There will be temporary halting or complete stop or closure of productions. And the second kind of problem is increase in price. So because of the global crisis or because of this disruption, there will be increase in price which will again impact the earnings of these companies. So if you look at data on natural gas prices here, we see that during 2021-22, that is during Russia-Ukraine war, the prices of natural gas had tripled. So there were only two countries involved in this war and this was the scale of impact. Although the prices did not reach to that level right now, you know that this West Asia war has multiple countries getting involved into it and we definitely can anticipate for these prices to shoot up in a few weeks time. So we have talked about two types of risks here. One is supply disruption causing an impact on volume and the other one is shooting up of prices. We'll now look at those sectors or those stocks which are actually getting impacted because of this. We'll look at these companies one by one with all the information that we are getting from the media. And also there are few companies which have come out and actually told the exchanges that we are actually facing a problem here. Also one quick thing before we get into the sectorial review, we'll see what's actually Indian government saying about this. What is the commentary from Indian government? This is a report by the Union Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas, Shri Hardeep Singh Puri. This came out on 12th of March, and if we browse through the section and go to natural gas here, so it says here that India produces approximately 90 MMS CMD of natural gas. This is daily production of India. It also says here that 30 MMS CMD is what we import from Gulf countries. It also talks about the alternate sources or alternate options that we are exploring. It says that large LNG cargoes are almost arriving on a daily basis. So this is the part where the government is saying that we are taking care of this LNG crisis, please do not worry, and so on and so forth. And they have actually restricted few supplies as well. Let's look at that. So the report here says that domestic piped gas to homes and CNG for vehicles will receive their 100% of supplies. But however, these industrial supplies will be restricted to an 80% of their past 6 months average. So that means that if a company was getting say X amount of LNG earlier, it will be cut down to 0.8x right now. Now if we look at fertilizer plants, they'll be getting only up to 70% of their previous supply. So definitely you see here that there are few industries that is getting impacted as per the formal statement from the government. Now if this perspective is completely clear, let's look at sectors one by one and try and understand what is actually going on. So the first sector that we are going to look at is the fertilizer sector, and we'll look at this company named Gujarat Narmada Valley Fertilizers and Chemicals Limited, GNFC. So this company has submitted a commentary to the exchange board, which says that its supply has been restricted to 60%. So you can see that right here. So basically 40% of their supply they are not going to get. And they are saying that this is going to have an impact on their neem urea production. So the company is clearly saying that they are going through a crisis. If their production is being impacted, definitely their earnings are going to come down. So this impact on their earnings will be visible in their P&L maybe a quarter or 2 quarters later. But the pricing in of this crisis is getting reflected in the stocks right now. The stocks are falling right now. So it's not just one company, right? If we look at other companies like GNFC, if you look at the entire fertilizer industries like Chambal Fertilizers, GNFC, RCF, FACT, Deepak Nitrite, their urea production is getting heavily impacted because of disruption in LNG import. So you guys can individually look at the submissions of these companies to the exchange board. I'm sure that if not all, most of these companies will be impacted because of this LNG supply. One thing that we need to remember is that this could be a short-term fall. So because of this LNG supply disruption, there would have been a loss of production of say 2%, 4%, 8%, even 15%. So as soon as the war ends or there is an improvement in the global crisis that is ongoing right now, the production is going to improve because supply disruption is going to get reduced and there will be proper and constant supply of LNG to these companies. So one important thing that we need to notice here is that the reaction of stock, the reaction of investors in particular stock is much ahead than how it is impacting the fundamentals. So as I told you earlier, the impact of these problems is going to get reflected in the stocks maybe in the next quarter results or in the quarter that follows that. But the stock is reacting right now. So this is something that is important for us as investors to be knowing. So that's about the first sector, which is fertilizers. Let's look at the next sector, which is consumer goods and EMS. So the first company that we are going to look at is PGEL, which is PG Electroplast Limited. This is a submission from PGEL on 9th of March 2026. So the company here says that due to supply restrictions imposed by suppliers, allocation of LPG quantities to PGEL under the said contract has been constrained with effect from 9th of March 2026. So we are not exactly sure on what is the constraint and what is the limitations that they are facing here right now. But the company is clearly stating that there is a limitation of LPG supply that they are going to get for their production. This definitely is a clear indication that the company's production will get impacted. We don't know to what extent is it going to get impacted. We are not sure what I don't think even the management is sure on what extent of this impact will be there for the company. So the report here also says that they're going to mitigate this risk by identifying different vendors, by getting their supplies from alternate vendors, etc. But we are not really sure on how and when exactly is this disruption in production going to get resolved. So again, we are seeing here that the company is coming forward and giving a submission to the exchange board saying that they are having an issue in their production. So maybe we'll be able to see the same sort of issue getting reflected in companies that are producing refrigerators, consumer electronics, etc. Also, if we look at a few other companies like Amber Enterprises, LG Electronics, Voltas, Blue Star, Hitachi Energy, all these companies are going to remain under the radar. Why? Because of the supply disruption in LNG, and we are not really sure that how is it going to impact the production of these companies. So what's important for us to notice here also is that the supply disruption of LNG causing a havoc in Indian companies is not just in the headlines right now. It's actually causing fundamental issues in the Indian stocks. Now, before we go to the third sector, I'm sure that a few of these consumer electronics related stocks like PG Electroplast or LG Electronics are fan favorites, and they are present in the portfolio of a lot of retail investors. And you might ask me if you have to go ahead and book your positions and sell on losses. I personally am someone who looks at the longer horizon, and I'm okay with sitting through this periods of volatility, periods of losses, etc. If you would want to hold or if you want to sell completely depends on your risk appetite. And you guys might agree when I say that, in few micro or small cap companies, it's quite normal for you to see losses of 20-30%. So I'm personally ready to go through this phase of volatility and see what actually the market is going to give me. And it really depends on how long is this war going to get stretched. So with that, let's move to the sector 3. The third sector that we are going to look at is tile makers. This includes companies like Kajaria Ceramics, So Many Ceramics, Serra Sanitaryware, etc. So here, there is a statement in the report which says that approximately 70% of the fuel for these industries are being curtailed now. And also, it says that their energy cost is 20 to 25% of their net sales. So that is really a huge part of their input cost that goes into their total cost. And it also says that approximately 5% of rise in fuel could affect their EPS by 5 to 7%. This is a report by Jefferies. So this right here is an example for us to understand that it's not just the volume which is affecting these companies negatively, it is also the increase in prices. And right now we are not really sure how far will this price increase go. It might increase or it might reduce. All of that depends on how long is this war going to get stretched, as I told you already. But one thing is for sure that all the investors are seeing most of these data points and they are sort of worried and maybe exiting their position. That is the reason why the number of sellers are more than the buyers in these stocks and the prices of stocks are naturally falling. Also, important thing from this commentary on third sector is that the tile industries is definitely going to impact real estate companies as well. If you have observed a few real estate companies lately, you would have seen that most of these companies are at a huge discount right now. That does not mean that I'm asking you to go ahead and buy these real estate companies. We are not really sure on how much this war is going to have an impact, if it will impact further more sectors going forward. But then it's definitely good to keep a watch on these companies. So with that, let's move on to the fourth sector. Fourth sector is food and restaurant companies. This includes companies like Eternal, Swiggy, along with few other companies like Jubilant Foodworks, Devyani International, and Sapphire Foods. It goes without me saying that these companies are being impacted because of LPG shortages. So this data here says that 60% of our domestic LPG needs is imported. And again, Indian government is saying that they're trying to regulate this by increasing the production of LPG. So does that mean that there is no impact? We really won't be able to quantify it exactly because we are not really sure on how much inventory these food business are sitting on. So again, these are all uncertain times, right? We are not sure about a lot of data here. So we won't be able to actually guess on if we'll make a profit or loss in such companies. So these are the times during uncertainty, right? When investors are actually, if they are on profit, they'll book their profits and exit their positions, and naturally resulting in stock prices to go down. So this is one sector that is getting impacted hard right now. So based on your assessment, you need to decide if you're going to stay put or if you're going to exit, book your positions in loss or profit. So the next sector that we are going to look at is Nifty Auto sector. So the Nifty Auto sector has tanked by nearly 15% in the past month. So this is one sector, if you guys remember, was enjoying that tailwind benefits of reduction in GST, etc. Suddenly looks like it is in problem now. Now, if you look at the data, you can see that companies like Maruti, M&M, all these good OEM companies have tumbled nearly 16%. If we look at this report from Nomura here, the first point that they talk about is the gas usage in paint shops. So in the paint shops wherein the body of these cars, etc. have to get painted, that is not having enough supply of gas. That's the reason why auto sector is tanking. And the second point that we can read here is various operations like forging, casting, etc., which are needed to manufacture components of these automobiles. They are also getting impacted. So these are the reasons why auto sector also is tumbling. And again, if you remember, just a month ago, around January, February, because of increased sales, auto sector was on prime. It was on all-time high. Also, one more important thing to remember is that when oil prices increase, generally inflation also will increase. So it has happened historically. And one bigger problem that this auto sector can face is if at all inflation increases and consumer demand drops, wherein people don't generally go ahead and buy cars, etc., that is going to be a bigger worry for these companies. Before we move ahead to the next section, if you guys are finding this video interesting and understanding how the war is impacting various sectors here, a reminder again to like this video and share this video with your family, friends and colleagues. So with that said, auto sector is a sector again which is completely beaten up right now. You can definitely keep a few companies from auto sector in your watch list and monitor to see how the impact of war as we progress through days is reflecting on these stock prices. So moving ahead to the next sector, which is not directly impacted because of the war, But stocks in this sector are hugely impacted because of large scale sell of FIIs in Indian markets. And that is banking sector. So we see here that since the start of war, Nifty Bank has fallen by 11%. So we'll refer to one article that is given by Sunil Subramaniam in ET Markets. So he simply associates this 11% fall in say last 14 to 15 days to FIIs selling in Indian market. If you have followed the FII data in the recent past, you might already be knowing that FIIs are selling at huge quantity in Indian markets, and it is much more than the quantities that FIIs, basically the foreign investors, were selling from Indian market back in October, November, December. Also, we see here that FIIs right now, we don't know what will happen in the future, but FIIs right now are actively selling in Indian ETFs and also in banks. And also you might know that PSU banks have had huge, really massive rallies in the recent times. But naturally, when you're sitting at high profits, profit booking will kick in. And this could be those times when, you have the reason of war also and you need to actually book the profits. And these might be the times when foreign investors or Indian investors, they have to naturally book their profits, and war is just another reason for them to do it. But again, because of this natural sentiment of fear, FIIs are surely exiting from Indian markets, and especially in ETFs and banks. Now I'm going to quickly cover the next sector, which is I think the most interesting sector, not just in India but in the global markets, that is IT. Nifty IT has fallen by nearly 37% from its peak. So with that, we see here that Nifty IT is down, banking is down, auto sector is down. So where should we actually invest? What should we do right now? So I'll just try to quickly pull out the allocation details of Nifty. So if you see the weightage of Nifty here, so this is the Nifty 50 allocation which you can see in the screen right now. So we have nearly 38% in financial services, 8.84% in IT, automobiles and auto components are at nearly 7%, and we have oil and gas at 10%. All of these sectors, as we saw already, financial services, it's getting hammered down. IT is down by 37%. Automobile sector, we already saw the data, it's 11% down right now. Oil and gas, I think, is the only area which is actually getting benefited because of increase in oil prices. Even then, Nifty, since it has higher weightage coming in from financial services, automobiles, IT, etc., it is not going to recover so easily and so quickly. We really will need things to happen very quickly. Some sort of negotiation, ceasefire, or the war completely ending. All of that, when it starts happening, the market will actually take its course back. But definitely, we have seen bigger disruptions than this in the history. And every time, market has really come back to its own course. You might say that I'm being really optimistic here, but you might have already seen, or you can go back and look at the history. And I can tell you that most of the retail investors, they have been sitting since 2020 in the regret that they did not enter in 2019 during the COVID time. So this can be an opportunity for investors to actually start entering. Risk that you have to take or the amount of volatility that you have to face will depend on how long this war is going to stretch. With that said, thank you for watching this video. Do give it a thumbs up if you have liked the video.